Transformers Chronicles, the Marvel Years.
Hello and welcome back to Transformers Chronicles. I'm Delvin, aka the Dark Web, and in case you're new to the show, welcome. Let me tell you what this thing is about. We are going for a wild, crazy ride, chronicling the awesome, wacky, and yes, sometimes corny world of Marvel Comics, the Transformers. But I will never be going at it alone. Let's meet my chronicling companions. We will start with the founder of the LONGBOX CRUSADE, a somewhat novice to the Transformers world, the seeker of the matrix of knowledge. His name is Pat Sampson, DJ Cristados. Hello, Pat. How are you doing this fine evening?
Hi, Delvin. I'm doing fine. I am looking for 20D batteries.
Why?
I need 20D batteries.
I mean, I'm ignoring the D's nuts. Okay, I can't ignore it. But is there any other reason that you need 20D batteries?
For my boombox. I got this cool boombox I just found here stashed in the basement.
Yeah.
And I want to get some music going, you know. And I got some little RC cars that I like to play around with. So I'm looking for some batteries.
Well, I'll tell you what. Just don't forget to close that tape deck. That's all I'm saying. That's almost like Saturday Night Matinee Theater. And don't forget, you better close that tape deck. Welcome, Pat. We will move on to our Transformers expert. He is the lesser half of Married Watching Cartoons. Whatever MWC you want to come up with, they have a podcast for it, I'm pretty sure. He's the provider of knowledge, Jonathan Schaefer. Hey. Howdy ho there, John. How are you?
Hello there, Delvin. I am looking forward to this one. You know, I haven't read it yet, but I'm excited because the Predacons are in it, and I can't wait to see the Predacons finally get to triumph over someone, because the last time they were in it, they got knocked right out. But I'm sure this time, victory will be theirs.
Well,
I have read it.
I know, but you tapped into, you know, a very well-used LONGBOX CRUSADE bit, and bits are always smiled upon here, never frowned upon. So good job, John. We're going to move on to our greater half of Married Watching Cartoons, or MWC. I need to just think of a random thing with MWC and then pretend that you guys have a podcast about it. Married Watching Cats, because that's true. Y'all have a cat. I just met Gatsby. Said that's right. All right. Anyway. She is Maggie Schaefer-Haynes. How do you do, Maggie?
I'm good. I just waved to the microphone. So that's something. That's how my Monday's going.
Sounds pretty good. I should put you on the spot and ask you to tell me something about how you transformed your life, but I didn't put the guys on the spot and ask them. So
Actually,
Actually,
I do have exciting news. Well, it's exciting to me. So this past summer, I met this gal who has, long story short, she has a horse, and she's a very nice person, and she is basically sharing her horse with me. And this upcoming summer, I'm going to compete in my very first ever dressage competition. Do y'all know what that is?
I have heard the term, but okay. I don't know what dressage is. Keep going. Dressage
is the fancy stuff that horses do with the people with like the black coats and the white pants, and the horses kind of do the fancy footwork stuff. I'm not going to do anything like super fancy. All I have to do is walk and trot in a circle, 2 circles. Because of my history with a really bad accident involving a horse when I was 16, what dressage is really all about is it's the foundations of riding. It's basically saying, like, can you ride a horse? And it's got its roots in warfare, actually, back in the old days in France. But now we kind of use it, well, now it's a rich person's hobby, but it really is really good for establishing a good foundational, like, practice of riding and how to sit right and how to do your transitions from walk, trot, canter, and back down again correctly and smoothly, making sure everyone's calm and happy. So I think it's actually going to be very therapeutic and kind of rehabilitative. And I've never competed in anything like horse related, certainly in my life. And she's just like, yeah, we'll get you signed up and we'll have you compete. We'll probably do 3 classes in May. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Did you say, whoa, hold your horses here?
Whoa.
I'm not ready for that.
Pull back on those reins a little bit. But no, I'm totally gung ho for it. I'm very excited for May 21st. It's going to be a busy weekend. I'm going to volunteer at the show as well. So I'm going to do my rides in the morning, and then the rest of the day I get to volunteer and help everybody else out with their competition stuff and run the show a little bit. Lots happened, actually.
And even though she referred to it as a rich person's hobby, don't get the wrong idea about us.
I don't think anybody does.
What?
No.
I was wondering why John was wearing a monocle and a top hat.
Yeah, that's his evening attire. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Tails and a coat, yeah. So I got 6 months to practice and get myself into some better riding shape and practice the tests, and we'll see how it goes in May.
Well, hey, that was awesome news. Congratulations on, zero pun intended, honestly, getting back on the horse, because a lot of people would just be paralyzed by their fear and never and go back to it again. So I hope everything turns up absolutely aces for you on that.
Thank you.
You are
now let's talk about robots.
Absolutely. The purpose of this podcast will be tackling all of Marvel's Transformers comics in order, starting with issue 1 and working our way to the series end at issue 80. And we're getting close to halfway. We will answer any questions that are brought up to the best of our abilities and see how these books we loved as a kid hold up to our eyes as an adult now. This podcast is guaranteed to be, you guessed it, more than meets the eye. So Pat, John, Maggie, let's talk about a robot bat and some tiny toy cars right after this.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Broadcasting from the back of a van.
What have we gotten into?
It's Radio Free Muncie. 3 dudes talking about gaming and comics.
We're going to have some old school versus new school discussion.
All through the lens of the Knights of the Dinner Table comic strips.
Lair of the Gazebo, classic strip.
So join us at anchor.fm/Radio Free Muncie.
We now return to the Transformers.
Welcome back. The issue we will be covering today is Transformers 37. And here is John with the cover description.
Grimlock is in the corner box in dino form per usual with a red background. The Transformers logo is orange with a slick metallic blue trim, and the more than meets the eye is in black. One of the captions promises us a suburban shootout, which we see here. The focus of the cover is one Buster Witwicky running for his life while wearing a green suit rolled up at the sleeves and brown pants. He is looking over his shoulder at his pursuers, the Predacons Headstrong, Rampage, and Dive Bomb. I think I'm going from memory as to which Predacon's which, who are nearly upon him, and Razor Claw pursues from further away. In the bottom front are a bunch of Formula One car toys, apparently kicking up dust or blowing exhaust, 2 things toy cars are known to do. Humans scatter in terror in all directions, and the storefronts shown give truth to the caption, Mayhem at the Mall. This one's pretty neat. It depicts an event from the comic. No comments on the event's context itself just now, but it sure does depict it. I like that the artist took the time to add storefronts to the background, even if it isn't fully colored, because it makes it clear that this is a mall and it gives a sense of a relatively cramped area. What do you folks think?
I'll go first. Why not? I like it. The Predacons are just cool anyway. They're cool toys, and if they're drawn well, which Jose Delbo did a very good job of, and I see an A-N-G on my cover too, so I'm pretty sure that's Aiken and Garvey. It was drawn well. Like, you might wonder, what the heck are these toy cars? What is that about? Those don't look like Transformers, and they look like they would be really, really small Formula One drivers. So, I wouldn't know what the heck that is. But, it seems like this human being here, which we know to be Buster Witwicky, is in a lot of trouble. Because he's been being chased by 4 robots, and I don't think any of the humans that are bystanders can help him. So my dude's in trouble. I like the cover. It conveys a lot. What do you think, Pat?
I think it's a nice looking cover as well, too. I think it gives you that sense of action, and there's something going on in here. And I really like the Predacons. I think they're really cool. You know, the more I see them, I'm like, yeah, these are really, really cool, kind of sharp looking characters. And I think those would be something I would want to have, because they all combine together, right? And make one big guy.
Predaking.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that one. So I'm like, I think I want to get some of these guys. Might be for my Crusade Miss next year, maybe somebody can get me that.
You cannot start on Crusade Miss
It's never too late.
2023.
It's never.
We haven't gotten through 2022 yet, Pat.
It worked for Jason a long time ago, so.
It did. Bad behavior has been rewarded often on Longbox Crusade. Maggie, what do you have to say about this cover?
So I do like the cover overall. I actually thought briefly when I first looked at it that the Formula One drivers were like, how do I want to describe it? Like they looked miniaturized, but they weren't actually going to be so in the story. Like I thought somewhere in the story were going to be Formula One drivers for some reason. So I was kind of keen on that. But I am, as we all know, a stickler for the covers, depicting something that happens in the book. And I have to point out that Buster's shirt is not the right color. In the comic, his shirt is pink, and on this cover, it is clearly green, and this aggression will not stand.
You just brought up a color error and have summoned John to the room here. Color error, you say?
I don't know. I don't think it was a color. I'm just being silly.
I think it probably goes back to the color wheel. And if only we had somebody that had a color wheel that could tell us what.
I mean, we do. It's Jared, but Jared isn't on this show in particular. We might have to get him on another.
Red and green offset each other nicely. The red, green, and blue do offset each other nicely.
Yeah, no, it's a very striking cover. I love the action on it. I like the Predacons too. I like this kind of like the smoke from the little race cars in the foreground sort of make it look like a stampede is actually happening, like dust getting kicked up, very Lion King kind of style. You got a couple bystanders that are freaking out and trying to, get out of the way. I do kind of wonder though, because of the storefronts that we see along the sides, we only get an EDEL. And I just did anybody got any thoughts about what that might be, if anything?
I hadn't been to a mall in a while, and I can't even think of something in the 80s that would start with EDEL.
Yeah. I wondered if it was like, how they'll sometimes like sneak in people's names, for like somebody who might have worked on it previously or someone, at Marvel or something like that. I don't know. I just wondered. EDEL.
I got nothing.
I don't know.
I don't know. They use a pastiche name for Radio Shack.
Yes,
so I don't know if they would use even a real name anyway.
Right. That's kind of what I was thinking. So maybe it was just like some random letters. I don't know. I was just wondering. But yeah, no, I like the cover. I think it's pretty darn cool.
We have a lot of positivity about the cover. Let's get to the ratings here. On Transformers Chronicles, we rate things on a scale of 1 to 10 like the tech specs of old. 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. We'll let Pat go first. Pat, what would you rate the cover to Transformers 37?
I'm going to give this an 8. It's pretty decent cover. I like the line work that's done in here. The inking really makes things stand out as well too. And the color. So I'm at an 8.
Nice. Maggie, go for it. What would you rate the cover?
I think I'm going to go 1 higher. I'm going to give it a 9. I really like it. I guess, although at the same time, if I'm going to give it a 9, why not just give it a 10? Because I'm also kind of a sucker for an orange and blue combination. I really like that color combo. And I think the Transformers looks really slick along the top. And I like the action. So, yeah, forget what I said. I'm going to give it a 10. Why not?
I'm absolutely on board with you liking orange and blue, by the way.
It's a good color combination, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's great. John, what would you rate Transformers 37's cover?
I think I'm going to give it a 9. It is really, really good. I really like the expressions on the faces of the two Predacons that you see there. And I also like Razor Claw in the background, how they really do the scale properly. Like, how big that he's as big as these, so you get the sense about how far back he is. And he just seems so menacing there. It's like Buster's got everything going. And oh, by the way, here's Razor Claw. And I mentioned it in the description. This is an example of how a lot of other ones that I might have ranked mediocre would have been improved just by having background stuff in it. Mm-hmm. Because if this would have been like some of the seemingly rush jobs we've seen before that didn't have it, if it was just no backgrounds, this wouldn't be anywhere near as good for me. But with the backgrounds, it just really conveys the cramped nature of where they are. And it gives you a really good sense of what's going on and puts you in the mood and the mind of the whole situation. So
I think it almost looks like a movie poster.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like it looked kind of like a cool movie poster sort of thing. I don't know. I really like the cover. I think it's neat as heck.
That's a 9 for me.
And I'm at an 8. I think it's good. I think it's really good. The colors overall really stick out for me. Not only like the logo goes with the Predacons, and the Predacons they are cool and they really do strike out. I mean, and there's something about that juxtaposition of having, like, even though they're robots, they're robotic animals, and they're animals rampaging through a mall, which is not something that you're going to see every day. So, I mean, it's something that will capture your attention. Just looking at a picture of it is something that will capture your attention if you were in public viewing this live. So, like, very, very good cover, very intriguing. And Jose Delbo did a very good job on it. And now, here is Pat with the credits for the issue.
All right. We are covering Transformers 37. The on-sale date was October 27th, 1987. Cover dated was February 1988. Cover price is $1. Story is by Bob Budiansky. Pencils go to Jose Delbo. Inks, Ian Aiken and Brian Garvey. Colors, Nelson Yamtov. Letter goes to Bill Oakley. And editor is Don Daly. Cover credits go to Jose Delbo. And this is all brought to you by Mike's Amazing World and tfwiki.net. Back to you, Delvin.
Thank you, Pat. Let's get to the synopsis.
It is a world transformed, where things are not what they seem. It is the world of the Transformers. The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. Transformers. Robots in disguise. Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers from Marvel Comics.
The title of this issue was Toy Soldiers. This story arc has taken some good twists and turns, and some loose ends are starting to connect. Since most of the Autobots are, not on planet Earth right now, the Decepticons are wreaking havoc. The III, Intelligence and Information Institute, keeps asking the captured Autobots about Decepticon plans because their boss, Forsyth, insists all robots are in cahoots like a military J. Jonah. Walter Barnett thankfully comes to his senses and comes up with an ingenious plan to smuggle the Throttlebot's brains into his son's toy cars right out of the building. Goldbug asks Walter to find Buster Witwicky, who can get them to the Ark. However, Walter and Buster have to stop by a mall to get some batteries for the toy cars / Throttlebots, and this is where Rat-Bat and the Predacons find them. After leaving a trail of wreckage behind them to get to this mall, by the way, Walter, Buster, and Goldbug barely escape and find their way to the Ark, where there's nobody home, remember? The Autobots are in space chasing Blaster and the kids, and Daisy, the teddy bear. What Goldbug did manage to do is send a distress beacon out to Cybertron asking for help. And that's about all he got to do, because Rat-Bat ambushes Buster and crushes Goldbug. Man. So let's talk about the book. On Transformers Chronicles, we take turns bringing up something from the comics, starting with, but not limited to, goods and bads that everybody discusses. John said he had a lot of notes on this. Let's start with John and ask John what he has to talk about first.
Well, this issue did teach me something. I was not aware that you can abbreviate liquid oxygen as LOX. I've never seen it done that way, but Maggie Googled it after I was saying that's totally wrong and told me
that's legit.
I'm totally wrong.
That's legit.
So that's cool. I love, like, right off the bat, this lets you know the tone of the thing that we're about to be into. When you've got an army guy ordering the other way, goes, watch your aim. If just one bullet pierces this thing as he's unloading a submachine gun towards it. But that's just the kind of wacky shenanigans we should get prepared for in this one.
Now, are you saying that submachine guns aren't known for their high accuracy? Is it kind of like a spray and hope you hit something kind of a thing?
That, and it's a lot of bullets in a short amount of time going towards there, and the accuracy is not as good as, say, a rifle. But I don't think anyone in their right mind would shoot anywhere. If someone is holding a thing of liquid oxygen, you're not going to shoot towards them, especially if they're made of metal.
What do they have liquid oxygen for in the first place? And why so much of it? There's a lot of liquid oxygen.
Well, it's a chemical storage facility.
Yeah. So they were storing
oxygen
it there.
is okay. It's also apparently a form of brine salmon is lox.
Yeah, I saw lox, and that's what I thought.
Was salmon?
Like giant tubes of smoked salmon.
I don't think that would explode like fireworks.
You haven't had my salmon?
Yeah, probably not. And I don't know how much robots would want to eat salmon. So
no.
Yeah. No, it's the liquid oxygen that they stole from Huntsville, Alabama for some reason. Well, that's John's. Let's see. Pat?
Yeah, this one was more than what I was expecting. You know, after the last few stories that we've gone through, this one is like when stuff starts to gel and you're getting all the bits and the pieces are kind of coming together, at least to move things forward. And I really like that because one, you know, you got to see the I again, and you know, what's his name in this?
Walter Barnett.
Yeah, Walter. We got, you know, so you see him coming around. They're tying back to older stories in here. Granted, they were like a few issues ago, but they're still coming back to those as well. And then you got everything else going on with, you know, Buster's back again. It's like, oh yeah, Buster's back. Let's have some fun, you know, even though we saw him in the car wash of doom. It was still cool to see him here and, you know, just, you know, him moping around like, man, I could have been with the Autobots. No, I got to sit around here and go to school, blah, 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 blah. But I liked it. I think there was some good story building that's going on in this issue.
There was quite a bit of story building going on. Let's see what Maggie has to add.
Well, my first thing, actually, I want to point out that I love that both you and Pat refer to it as the I, because even my brain is too lazy. So as I was reading it, I was referring to it as triple I. Because I saying I, even in my own head, I'm like, no, I'm not. It's going to take forever to read this. But my first thing is actually a question. So this is page 1, yes, that I'm looking at here. So middle panel, they list Page 2. Okay. Another Decepticon quintet. It says Hook, Scrapper, Long Haul, Scavenger, and Bone Crusher arrives. But then 3 panels later, they refer to someone named Blitzwing.
That's Blitzwing.
Yeah, but they didn't mention him previously.
No, because he wasn't there. He's flying.
Oh. I get so used to them, like, they'll say the names of the Transformers like in a box, like a text box, and then the Transformers themselves will all refer to each other by those names, so we kind of know which one's which. And that really threw me. I was like, well, wait a minute, like, where's Blitzwing coming in? Okay, good. Then I'm glad. Well, I guess I'm not glad because I was just confused and I shouldn't have been confused. But there's a lot going on here at the beginning. Also, shout out to Atlanta, Georgia, because that's where my dad lives.
Mixmaster is missing from the Constructicons. It must have been his day off.
Well, that, and it didn't look like they were really mixing much of anything, did it? Just looked like they were
stealing rebar.
Yeah, it looks like they were stealing steel girders.
Yeah.
So if you're keeping track, they're stealing liquid oxygen and they're stealing steel girders.
And I haven't seen why that.
No, Pat.
No.
You know, that's the thing I'm saying. You know, it's that story building. It's like, well, why are they taking this stuff? And we don't.
Why are they taking this stuff?
Why indeed? That is the question.
That is a good question. One that I would stick a pin in. I'm pretty sure we're going to get an answer to it. Let's start the second round. John, I know you have more notes.
On that page there's an interesting bit. It's an error in the original print that they correct in the trade. Hook refers to scavenger as scrapper. He says, keep piling those girders on Long Haul, Scrapper in the original one. But in the trade, they correct it to Scavenger.
Interesting. Yep.
Well, all right then.
Well, that was interesting, but surely you have something else.
I do. I just wanted to wait till we get to it here. Well, I guess moving on into the next one here where we get I, which is the same amount of...
It's easier to say triple I than I.
I got you. But... Here's something that always bugged me as a kid. As a kid, I never liked that I always, or Rat, whichever one, always managed to what goes around comes around.
Oh yeah, I can't read it without thinking of some songs.
Love will find a way, just give it time. Had to at that point. I mean, the Rat was out the bag.
Well, with I think I'm just thinking Ozzy.
Train locomotive.
Because Megatron is, or Grimlock, as we
he is correct.
So, Grimlock is
the cray train.
That's true. Oh my goodness.
We are off the rails here, Steve.
We are off the rails. John's getting us back on, though.
The rails, I get it, because train. Anyway,
no.
Back on. It always bugged me that the Autobots always got the worst end of the deal whenever any confrontation on that. It adds to better drama in terms of this anyway. But what always bugged me, and it finally hits a head here to the point where they resolve it, and I know it's meant to depict like military obstinance, but why is III so willfully ignorant about the fact that there are two feuding factions here? Because every time they encounter them, they're fighting. They have seen them on 3 separate occasions show up. The 2 of the times they managed to capture people is in the wake of a battle between the 2 of them. So, and this is the whole, and their Forsyth guys are like, they said, well, they're telling me that they're not the Decepticons, that there's 2 different factions. They go, well, obviously they're lying. Go back. And I get why, just it's supposed to be, well, Forsyth is the bad one. And Barnett's the one who comes to his senses and allows the doors, and that's fine. But it's always something that I have to just kind of shake my head and chuckle at, even today.
Well, sometimes, I wouldn't say this is just limited to government. Sometimes it's just limited to, or not limited. Sometimes that's all inclusive of either bad bosses or non-creative thinkers. Like if you only have a hammer, every solution looks like a nail, right? Yep. And Forsyth, of nothing else, seemed like a hammer. No matter how velvet a hammer he was, he thought that he was an actual hammer. So he just saw this one problem. And heck, I mean, I smiled and just rolled my eyes when Walter Barnett transformed all the throttle bots and was talking to Goldbug. And he says to Goldbug, this premise that you robots are divided into 2 warring camps is unacceptable to us, Goldbug. To which Goldbug's like, okay.
Yeah, like,
it's gonna be unacceptable as all you want, dude. But
sucks to suck, I guess.
Goldbug's like, if you look closely, I got a different symbol on me. Those guys got a different symbol on them.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, Forsyth was kind of stuck how Circuit Breaker was back in the day, right? Only good robot's a dead robot. Yeah. Did not want to discriminate between the warring factions, just assumed that both of them had ill intent.
Right. And with Circuit Breaker, it made more sense to me because she got paralyzed by them. She doesn't care that there's good guys and bad guys. She just knows they're fighting and hurting people, and that's what she's reacting to. Plus,
maybe she had a few circuits loose.
I believe so. Broken, if you will. It wasn't enough to take away from my enjoyment of it, obviously, but it's just a plot thing that I'm glad that it's finally done. If after this they still insist that there aren't, there are 2 warring factions, well then that's silly.
I mean, heck, at the end of the book or close to the end of the book, the Predacons completely ransacked III just to check to see, like, wait, are these robots, found the robots, ripped them apart just to see whether or not they were truly Autobots and whether they were dead. So, yeah, and they weren't nice about it. Pat, you have something to add. Go for it, man.
I liked the action in this as we get to that part where the Predacons come in and they start tearing up things and then they start chasing down Buster everywhere. The action in the mall, I think, was really good. And you got some really neat panels. One of them that really stands out to me is it's like that widescreen view of all the Predacons just coming, kind of charging at you. I thought is really cool to see that happening. And I'm like, man, these guys are really cool looking, robots that I want to get.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if that whole thing was just a setup for you lobbying for Crusade again.
No. It's actually, I thought that was really cool.
Okay.
But people want to take it that way. I'm not going to.
The Predacons are pretty slick.
Yeah.
The Predacons are pretty slick.
Plus you get action from Ratbat.
Yeah.
You get more action in this one than he was in the Car Wash of Doom, I feel.
Well, he had some action in the Car Wash of Doom, and heck, I really liked that part of it. Boy, Ratbat was, cold, calculated, fuel accountant about his business, and he was like, wait a minute, I remember you.
Yep. That was pretty great.
You cost me my fuel. That was a big fuel expenditure, and it made me look bad. I am going to kill you. Like, I love the angry Rat Bat. I really did. That was a good scene.
Doesn't he actually tell Buster he's going to drink his fuel with a steel straw?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, I think that's hardcore.
That was pretty great. In that scene, Rat Bat winds up looking pathetic and terrifying at the same time when he's squished by that door. Mm-hmm. And he's coming, and he's sitting there and he looks like so almost silly, but his response, and he's like, I will suck out your fuel with a straw. And it's like, I gotta run.
But I mean, like, as we found out, he recovered nicely, but we won't get to that yet. Let's see.
Let me go to this one. Speaking about that door, how many times have you gone? Do you remember, back in the day when we went to the mall to go and do things, and it was like, man, I got to get this thing. It just came out today. And then you run to the mall and all of a sudden, that stupid gate's there. Because either you didn't get there in time or it's starting to close. You're like, no.
If you see that thing, if it's about 25% of the way down, it's like, you better get in there and buy your stuff and get out quickly.
You got a limbo underneath it and get, because then the workers are all giving you the stink eye because you're like,
they're trying to get home.
Coming down the cash register already. What? I
gotta say though, going to a mall to find batteries is like going to the county fair because you're hungry. And that's a callback to Batman and Superman when they're hungry and they go to the county fair to get dinner. And I'm like, so there's no gas stations in Oregon where you can buy batteries? Were things different then? You couldn't find batteries.
It was easier. It was easier to find batteries back then. I mean, there were radio shacks, strip malls, and
radio sheds.
Radio sheds, in the mall. But I'll get to that in a bit. But as delightful as this issue is, there's a point when they turn on a switch where everything is rather contrived. A couple of times it's meant to, I'm going to do this thing that doesn't seem to make sense. Anton Chekhov, am putting this gun down, that kind of thing. And so the whole idea of, they go to a mall because they have to be in the mall, because a fight scene in the mall would look really super cool, as it does.
And it does. Like, when the one, breaks through the pet store, and he's like, is it the Rhino? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know any of their names.
I think the Rhino is named Rampage.
The Rhino is Rampage, and he goes through a pet store, and there's, all these dogs and a cat, and he almost looks like he's smiling, and the dogs are like, this is great!
I might be wrong on that. The Rhino may not be named Rampage.
Well, there's
Tantrum.
Tantrum. Is that the Rhino?
No, that's the bull. The bull's Tantrum.
Yeah, see? Who knows? Nobody knows.
I know Razor Claw and
is rabbit.
I'm looking it up. Keep talking.
So it's cool. It's a fun place to have this all kind of happen because it adds to this feeling of chaos, right? Because there's stuff to break and they break that, and there's people to scare and they scare them.
I want to make sure before we get too far towards the end of the thing that we do not skip over the bit we've skipped over, which involves the fact that Barnett is apparently an expert mechanical engineer, like Reed Richards level mechanical engineer, who's able to work with alien tech and interface them with a toy to an extent that is incredible. He's able to single-handedly go in there, take the brain modules out of Autobots, put them into a remote control car, figure out where the optic sensors on the brain are, and then attach that to the lights, and it works. That is incredible.
See, I thought that was actually fairly ingenious, personally. I thought that was actually kind of...
Well, of course it's ingenious. There's no possible way to do that, and yet he was able to, so that is something.
Well, John, clearly there was a way to do it because he did it. Duh.
He did it.
Well, if we're in a universe where RC cars run on D batteries, I think we could accept anything.
I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think the same batteries that run that weird boombox Buster insists on carrying around with them would fit in a little RC car.
Well, I haven't seen a boombox like that before because I've had a lot of boomboxes and none of them had the batteries come out button right next to the eject the tape button.
Oops, wrong one.
Oh, damn.
And he doesn't even know how to use the thing. But he brings it into the mall, and I'm like, are they in, the shady side of town? And that's why he feels like he has to bring his radio into the mall with him?
That was one of the contrived things I was talking about. He had to bring
Maybe he was waiting for his song to come on, and he had a tape deck ready, and he's like, "I'm waiting for this song to come on."
Maybe he had to go into a radio show.
You
know how long I had to wait to get "We Are the World" on tape, because every time it came on and I wanted to do it, the radio DJ had to do his bit introducing it over the music, and I don't want to hear the radio DJ. I want to hear the
guys
of that trumpet before Lionel Richie's voice.
Hey guys, you want to talk some Transformers? Maybe. No?
Maybe.
Why?
Did you look up the names of the Predacons?
Yeah, I did. The bull's name was Headstrong, and I have to be pretty headstrong to keep you guys in line. Is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up about this book?
I think the art is spectacular throughout.
I think this is the second issue done by Jose Delbo.
Yes, the second.
Yes, he has come in for Don Perlin and filled in quite admirably, I think. He does well drawing humans. He does well drawing robots, too. And doesn't look like, I can't speak for the future because my memory isn't that good, but it doesn't look like he's taking any breaks. You know what I'm saying? So I give him a lot of credit for that. A lot of credit goes to Jose Delbo along with Aiken and Garvey for what they've done. John, were you going to say something?
Yeah, Delbo is my favorite penciler in the Budiansky era. Like, hands down. He isn't even as good as he's going to get. Even by next issue, there's even more detail and things that he starts putting in. And I think, as I mentioned before, by issue 41, he has to draw every Transformer that was available in the comic at that point.
Don't give it away.
Yeah.
I'm not saying why.
That's true. You didn't.
Nobody mentioned Spike.
I was saving that.
Yeah.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah, I figured you'd ask. So,
well, I know Spike from the cartoon, but it's like, did they ever mention in the earlier issues about Spike? Was the brother?
Nope.
In fact,
Sparkplug kept a secret from.
Yeah,
they kept it secret from themselves. It seemed, because earlier at one point, Sparkplug refers to Buster as "You're all I got."
Yeah,
indicating there's a reason. I will not spoil why.
Okay.
There's a reason that they have to have Spike in it now. The reason that there is Buster and Spike is because of a miscommunication. And I don't remember the details of it, but apparently the character was supposed to be named Butch. And apparently the cartoon people somehow telephoned that into Spike, and the comic book people telephoned that into Buster. So it winds up being, it's supposed to be the same character, as much as that is. They're different, but it's supposed to be Spike or Sparkplug and his son are the two humans they interact with. And in this, he was Buster, but for a reason that will become clear next issue, which I can go into more detail of why they had to add Spike, but there is a reason behind it.
I wonder, maybe that's why Sparkplug is so against Buster, doing well and just generally going to school, is because his oldest son abandoned him for college on the East Coast.
That's true.
And he's got this massive chip on his shoulder.
All the way on the East Coast. That's literally the other side of the nation, and the United States is not small. No.
That's true. He does do the thing where he seems to be happy that
instead of going to school, he goes off to deal with the Autobots, and Sparkplug's just fine with that.
Sparkplug goes out of his way to discourage him from doing it. You put those books down and you go make out with Jesse and bring your friend O.
Oh man, I'm so glad he didn't come back.
I miss O.
Yeah, you leave O alone, Maggie. Pat, do you have anything else?
No, that was it. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here with this Spike?
I was perfectly willing to let it pass, but yeah, they did mention Spike and said, "Yep, you got an older brother, and he's coming back." And for all we knew, it was a throwaway line, right? Spike, okay, he's got a brother, Spike, cool, word. Maybe, maybe not. But as John already said, looks like there's going to be something else to it. And poor Sparkplug, right? My dude had a heart attack earlier on in issue 3, and then the Predacons and Ratbat just came in and ransacked this place. That was unnecessary too. They didn't even need to do it. They just did it anyway. we're bigger than you, so we're just going to destroy your shop.
They didn't even need to stop there. He was tracking. They tracked him there, but then were easily able to track him past.
Right.
So they didn't need to.
And I love it because Ratbad says it like, well, let me rephrase the question by just utterly destroying all of your personal property.
Yeah, Decepticons, they were on a mat on the entire issue. Bots on a mission for certain. So we have talked Spike, we talked Sparkplug, we talked a little bit about the action that's going on. And then I think the only thing that might be worth mentioning would be that ending. I thought the ending was...
Yeah.
That might be an all is lost moment. But before that all is lost moment, looks like Goldbug sent out a signal. Does anybody remember why that's important?
Because we already saw them receive the signal in issue 4 of Headmaster. Even though he said that they sent it to Cybertron and managed to get to Nebulos, but they got it. So that's...
Well, I think didn't in that issue they were actually intercepting it or something like that?
It could be. I'm going to assume that.
Yeah, because the people of Nebulos still did have a connection back to Cybertron.
That's true. Yeah.
Yep. So
we're going to get some Headmasters.
Yeah, looks like
with that crazy old guy.
Lord Zarek was his name. Yeah. Looks like things are starting to tie in, but did anyone have any thoughts about that ending that I haven't talked about? Just real quick pass around, Pat.
Whoa, sorry.
Oh, wait, no, Maggie, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, one of the things, kind of looking towards the future is now that Forsyth guy does seem to understand that there are two warring factions within the Transformers. I kind of wonder what that might mean for, the future of I and Rat. If that's gonna, because he's in a position of power, is that gonna change anything? Or is it just gonna be same old, same old?
Yeah, it's just gonna go round and round.
Yeah, I don't know if because he does have that moment of clarity where he's like, oh, he was right, and I just didn't want to see it. And now he has seen it. You'd think that perhaps he could do something with this newfound information.
You think? Okay.
Maybe.
But John, you got any last thoughts?
Couple things. First, what does Bob Budiansky have against Bumblebee Goldbug? I gotta know. This is the third time. First he gets shot in the first issue. Then he gets scraplets. And now he gets his brain taken out and put into a toy car, which then gets crushed by a rat bat. Oh, not to mention before that, getting blown up by the G.I. Joes so that he had to be turned into Goldbug in the first place.
He's going through a lot.
But we never see the Throttlebots again after this. I mentioned that just because nobody cares about the Throttlebots that aren't Goldbug. But so does that mean they just ran out of batteries and died? Or
let's assume a happy tale for them that eventually
some found them.
Somebody went to the mall, recovered them. They got their bodies back. They just never came back on screen again. That's a happier ending.
That's true.
Do we just never see the rest of the little mini ones?
No, there are too many new Transformers to introduce to be bothered by little ones that nobody cares about.
I kind of like the idea that I called them the itty bitty bots, and I kind of liked the idea that they talked like the chipmunks when they were in their little Formula One RC cars because they're little.
Maggie, any other parting thoughts before I move us on?
I feel like I've said more than enough, so I think I'm good.
Okay. Pat?
Yeah, it's interesting to see what happened to Bumblebee, or Goldbug, or whatever his name is. But I did like in this issue, he spoke up a lot more. He seemed to be a little more assertive or just a little more commanding, which I kind of liked.
Yeah, I think there's just something about Goldbug that people like, and I guess Bob liked him, and that extended all the way into heck. Bumblebee has had a feature-length movie now, right? So, the guy has some legs as far as his popularity goes. So, I guess there's just some appeal to him.
I think just because he crushed it doesn't mean that the little brain is not still connected to the battery.
No, he's dead forever.
What?
Well, maybe.
We don't know. What we can say is that it doesn't look good for him right now, right?
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Where that's going to lead, I think that's something that we might be talking about in later issues.
Is Buster going to go into him and Buster going to combine like Buster did before?
Oh,
Buster
you mean
still got some power?
Nope, don't think so. I think Optimus Prime took it all back. We'll see where it goes. We're only at 37 out of 80. That's almost half, literally. So, I mean, we got a few more issues to figure out what's the fate of Bumblebee, what's the fate of Buster, whether or not we see Buster again or not. We're going to find all this out pretty soon. But for now, now's the time for us to talk about who had the touch, where we talk about which character in the book stood out the most. Autobot, Decepticon, or Human John.
I will go with Buster, Don't Call Me Spike, or Butch Witwicky, who is yet again as resourceful as possible, gets himself out of the very dangerous situation, and at the end belies my earlier comments about Barnett being the greatest mechanical engineer in the world by repairing a freaking alien transceiver just by the instructions of a toy car that's talking to him. So... that's good. Good thing Grimlock and those guys left it behind.
Yeah.
That's
handy.
You would have thought that would be something that, at least Wheeljack would have picked up, but maybe they had a redundant one.
It's possible they also had a redundant one. Maggie, who had the touch?
I'm going to give it to Barnett. He was really a hero in this one. Mm-hmm. He has been he's a friend to the Autobots, and he rescued all 6 of the ones that had been caught and helped them out. And I thought he was very brave. I'm going to give it to him.
Pat, who had the touch?
I'm going to go with Ratbat on this one. He definitely had a plan, and he was going overboard on it. He, like you said, messed up the garage. He messed up the mall. Wherever he was in control, and he was making sure people knew what was happening. I'm
with you. I think Ratbat had the touch. And keep in mind, Shockwave's still kind of around. He didn't die or anything, but it seems like the leader of the Decepticons right now, the person who's been in the forefront has been Ratbat. And Ratbat, his main function is fuel auditor. So I would keep that in mind. Something about the plan of, let's see, they stole some liquid oxygen, and then they stole a bunch of steel girders. Maybe this has something to do with Ratbat. Maybe there's a plan in play. Maybe not. We'll see. But, Ratbat, I like how, maybe it was a little bit of a fuel expenditure, but he was desperate to find out what happened to those Autobots, and he very officially got to the bottom of it. And even when he was knocked out of first, he was trapped by the door, but very quickly thought to transform into his tape mode and sneak around with Buster, and then ambushed him at the last possible second. I give him credit. Ratbat was definitely on the case this issue. If we've talked about the touch, then somebody had to be out of touch. Let's talk about the character that was the worst in the book and should end up as mounds of cube scrap metal in a segment called Less Than Meets the Eye. Pat, who was less than meets the eye?
I'm going to go with Forsyth, or whatever his name is. I think he's less than meets the eye, just because, like I think Megan mentioned earlier, it's like, come on, this is a government. Don't you know what's going on here?
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with Forsyth, and he came across as a very weak leader who did that show of strength that's like, we have to destroy them so we can look strong. It's like, no, you don't have to. That was a choice. If I had to choose, mine's a little bit sneaky. Mine is Razor Claw of the Predacons, and it's only because he literally came out and was like, yeah, we needed to make sure our enemies were dead because we're the bad guys and they're the good guys.
Right. Did you get that?
Dude, you're ruining the whole gig. Like, the Decepticons have kind of, especially Megatron. Right. Megatron was very, very hip to this. It's like, oh, I could use this. If they're going to think we're all bad, then we're going to continue to do bad stuff, and we'll leave the Autobots to continue to be hung out to dry. But Razor Claw didn't quite pick up on that subtlety, and he may have given up a very important chip for the Decepticons. Maggie, who was less than meets the eye?
I'm going to go, I agree with Pat. I was going to give it to Forsyth because he not only, the show of strength quote unquote, shall we call it, was just entirely unnecessary and ultimately very cruel, especially considering earlier Goldbug had said that they've been drained of all their fuel. They took them apart and then put them back together again, which is a little bit of body horror when you're talking about sapient beings.
Yeah.
He also earlier on played right into the Decepticons' hands. And I think it was Barnett who warned them, and he's like, no, this is exactly what they want, because if they do one more attack and you've made this announcement that, because of this robot terrorism, you're going to kill the ones that we have in captivity, they're obviously going to take advantage of this, and they're going to do something to force you to do that. And he played right into it. At least he did have that turnabout at the very end, but we have yet to see if it's, too little too late, or if anything at all is even going to become of that. So I give it to Forsyth as well.
Nice. That leaves you, John.
This isn't my answer, but just to tag on to what you guys have been saying about Forsyth, it just occurred to me that Forsyth acts as a great parallel to Grimlock in terms of bad leadership, or in terms of he regards displays of strength as being the most important, or possibly the only thing you have to do to lead.
Interesting point.
And both of them are, well, at least Forsyth is shown to suffer because of it. It remains to be seen how Grimlock's is going to turn out. But I think that's even if Bob Budiansky didn't plan it that way, Bob, if you're listening to this for some reason, you can pretend that you were, and I won't tell. But anyway, my choice is the same as pretty much every time they appear in the Transformers comic, which is not only Razor Claw, but the other 4 Predacons, because in this corner we have the Predacons. According to all of the descriptions, the best hunters, the greatest some of the greatest Decepticon warriors we've ever seen, people that were brought to Earth with the intent to destroy Megatron, and in this corner, we have a bunch of RC cars with robot brains in them.
Well, to be fair, 2 of them are cats. And I think if they had the opportunity to chase, like a laser kind of a thing,
that's a good point.
Maybe they got a little distracted by, a toy.
See, what I was going to say is they're good hunters, John. They're not good catchers.
Like a dog going after a car. You don't know what you're going to do if you catch it.
It reminded me, and again, this does not, did not take away from my enjoyment of this, but it just, in the series of very contrived events that had to happen to plot along, the whole idea of it reminded me of there's a YouTube show called Pitch Meeting, where they do parodies of what a pitch meeting to point out silly things about movies, and they were talking about the show Obi-Wan Kenobi, in which there is a sequence in which a young Leia is being pursued by a bunch of kidnappers, and she makes them all look wacky and silly by running through the woods, and suddenly they're all Keystone Cops and hitting their heads. And the joke in there was, "Is this a cartoon, sir?" Sometimes. So it's just occasionally that everything is going, and now it's a cartoon, and they're going to slip around and slap and lose, but it's the Predacons. Can't they just win once?
I mean, one of them is foiled by a curtain.
One of them is foiled by a curtain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, like I said, they're
foiled
good.
by water.
Yeah, the other one slips in a puddle. You can't recover from that.
They're good hunters. No one said anything about being good gatherers. And now is the time for overall ratings for the book. Tech specs of all y'all 1 to 10, 1 low, 10 high. Who don't want to pick first? I'll pick myself. Why not? This book I thought it was good, like surprisingly good. I like being surprised. I had no expectations for the book. I could not remember exactly what went on in this issue. And so reading it along with the cliffhanger, I was super, super impressed. Good artwork, good action, a very good storyline continues with some threads getting connected to where you're seeing that some of these things are starting to make sense. I'm at a 9. I think it was very, very, very good. That's where I'll stand with it. Pat, where will you stand?
I think you said it. Everything I would say, Delvin. I'm at a 9 as well, too. Very action-packed. I wasn't expecting much in this issue, and it definitely delivered.
Sweet. Maggie?
Yeah, I'll join in on the All Nines Club. I think 9 is a very well-deserved ranking for this book. I enjoyed it. Again, art was great. Action was great. It was a fun read. I enjoyed it. So I feel like a 9 is a very fair ranking.
John, wrap us up.
When I was a kid, I absolutely hated this issue. I mean, these sort of wacky, cartoony shenanigans might have been enough for me back when I was 10, but I was 13 when this came out, and I was way too mature for any sort of shenanigans like this. Mm-hmm. And I was actually approaching the time when I stopped collecting Transformers for a little while because I'd moved on to other superhero comics by that. But so I was completely expecting to go full out on how terrible this one was, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this. And I'm with all of you. This gets a 9.
Yay!
This was a lot of fun. This is a great issue of it's wrapping up so much. It's wrapping up all the loose ends from the old story as well as moving it into the next story. A lot of things. They lay a lot of seeds, which are all picked up on. All of the questions that that we have of why are they doing that? What do they need this stuff for? Becomes very clear within a few issues.
Yeah.
So this is fun. This was fun. I'm glad we got to read it.
Absolutely. Like, what are the Decepticons planning? Clearly it's something. Is Spike going to play a role? I mean, they brought him up. Looks like something's going to happen there too. Like, what's going to happen to Goldbug and Buster now? And now that Ratbat knows that a communication is going on, how's this going to unfold? How the headmaster is going to play a part in it? We don't know yet.
Is O a brother of Buster as well too?
Yes.
That we don't know.
Only in our hearts.
Yeah, absolutely is a brother. But off panel, we never get to it on panel. We can and never will leave you without John's segment of the show called Transformers Spotlight, where he discusses a particular Transformer that was featured in today's issue. All yours, John.
Tonight we are talking about Rampage. Here is what you would read on the back of Rampage's box if you were lucky enough, like Pat has not been up to this point, to receive a Rampage toy.
Maybe.
Rampage motto is, those who conquer act, those who are conquered think. I think the man has a future in running for the Senate in Georgia with such great things like that. Anywho, barrels through life with an uncontrolled fury, has difficult talking coherently for more than a few seconds before violently lashing out at anything near him, friend or foe. TV calms him. Stares at rock music videos for hours. As Tiger can leap 300 feet in height, 500 feet in length. A kick from his foreleg can crumble a cinder block. As Robot carries 60,000 volt lightning rifle, 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit thermo sword, and combines with fellow Predacons to form Predaking. However, you put a little bit of water on the ground, that's going to take right up. So, his strength is 8, his intelligence is 3, his speed is 5, his endurance is 6, his rank is 5, his courage is 9, his firepower is 9, and his skill is 6. As far as the Predacons go, I think this is their most prominent issue that wasn't 25 when they fought Megatron. Then they get their second shot here. They do show up again throughout here and there. I don't think they get to be Predaking anymore, so this is kind of their last hurrah here. On the cartoon, they are on it quite a bit, usually winding up on opposite ends of the ring from our spotlight last month, Skylinks, and those two fight, and so in which Predaking usually winds up on the wrong side of that one too. So at least it's consistent. And that is Rampage. Back to you, Delvin.
And now we go to a promo break.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Between the golden age of Atlantis and the rise of recorded history, there were ages undreamed of. Hither came heroes and villains possessing swords and magic, whose deeds became tales and legends. I have come to relate these sagas. Let me tell you of the days of high adventure. Days of High Adventure. a new podcast discussing a variety of comics that fall into the fantasy or sword and sorcery genre. Available on most podcast services and Anchor FM.
We now return to the Transformers.
And that's the show, everybody. Please come back and join us for the next episode where we discuss Transformers issue 38, where the homework we did a few episodes back pays off. The headmasters make it to planet Earth. If you'd like to hear more from us, the LONGBOX CRUSADE is in a lot of places. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon. You look for LONGBOX CRUSADE, you will find us. Patreon starts at $1 a month. That is a great deal because we give you stuff that's more than $1. YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. We have a do it live stream once a month. I have a New Warriors podcast there. That's every second Tuesday of the month. And we drop new show content now for any number of our shows. So please subscribe. We're looking for anyone to help us out there. And there's a voicemail. You can leave us voicemail comments on this show or any other show on the LONGBOX CRUSADE Network. 707-532-5269.
Hi, guys. This is Auburn Elvis. I just listened to the episode that had Bruticus and the primary color cover, and great episode. I know in this one, John had a real problem with the origin of Bruticus and how he came from World War II vehicles that Starscream sort of made, and there was also a space shuttle in there. Well, since this is Marvel Comics, I have a no prize that will explain all of that. When Starscream was on that desert island, it was not an actual island full of World War II vehicles. It was, in fact, an island owned by a movie production company that had gone out of business. So, yeah, there were lots of prop planes there, but there was also a prop space shuttle that they must have used from one of their movies about a space shuttle crash landing on an island. So that perfectly explains how Starscream would have created all of those planes, and one of them would have been a space shuttle. So that's all for me. Thank you very much.
That's 707-532-LBOX. Pat,
pick up the phone.
Thank you. You can email us at contact@longboxcrusade.com. And John and Maggie, you can tell us about your podcast and where you can be found on the internet.
We are MWC Podcasts. We do all kinds of things. MWC stands for whatever you want it to mean in your hearts. It can be married with comics, married watching cartoons. Maggie wants cookies.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. We do all sorts of things. Lately, we've been doing a lot of stuff for my college class that I'm taking. And also, I've been doing a review of the first Dragonlance novel with John M. Wilson, Clinton Robinson, and Lane from Batman Books Dark Knight in prose. But stay tuned for the new year. We're going to have all sorts of fun new stuff going on there. So just point your podcatcher to MWC Podcasts or anywhere, or look anywhere where you found this lovely podcast. You can find us there. As far as social media goes, that's kind of in a gray area right now. By the time this gets out, I will more than likely not be on Twitter anymore.
And I already am not on Twitter.
And Maggie is already not on Twitter anymore. As to where we'll be after that, we'll just stay tuned. In the next couple months, we'll let you know. We are on Facebook. You can find us on the Married with Comics podcast. You can find us there, or send us an email at marriedwcomics@gmail.com, and we'll talk there.
Thank you for that, John. Thanks, Maggie. Pat, where can you be found?
Well, Delvin, I'm glad you asked. You can find me on the Twitter at Christatos01. Where can you be found, Delvin?
I can be found on Twitter at DEE_RAY1977. Thank you so much for listening. See you all next time. And remember, freedom is the right of all sentient beings. To all are one.
Are we doing it?
Till all are one.
Till all are one.
Maggie, I didn't hear you.
Till all are one.
There we go.
You got the touch. You got the power. Yeah.
All songs, song clips, and characters discussed are copyright of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended, and it is for entertainment purposes only. We are just fans that like to share our love of comics.